mentioned that Jorge Sedano from ESPN Los Angeles and an NBA reporter with ESPN would be joining us. For those of you that are watching on YouTube and Facebook, you'll see this good-looking young guy. For those of you that are listening on 1090 or you're listening on any of the audio podcast platforms, you'll hear the great voice. My friend, my colleague, who I don't know, maybe I'll get to see him or speak to him again here soon because we've been on here for so long. Here's Jorge Sedano. George, good afternoon.
Hey, guys. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I think everybody here is good. If you
I love your shirt. I love your shirt, dude.
Show everybody your shirt because this is the name of Sedano and LZ, and I love the T-shirt.
Thank you. We used to go when it was just the Sedano show. We had the cartoon caricature, so we figured we'd keep that thing rolling. And LZ, I thought LZ's cartoon caricature came out pretty well.
It's really good.
Do those ship? Are those shipping and handling charges for those?
There's no shipping and handling. I can send you one. I can, I can get that to you. That you can just, hit me up on the DM. I know we follow each other, and I'll get one to you.
My man.
For sure.
You guys want to see mine?
No. No. You don't have a black guy on your shirt.
Wait, 710 gave you a shirt?
I swear to you, they did.
No. Wait, a Sedano shirt or just a Kaplan shirt?
They sent me a shirt with my show logo on it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got a caricature? Let's see that.
No, I want a caricature.
Are you doing that? Are you doing that point thing on your shirt?
Please don't do that point thing. Who told you to do that?
The picture with the point thing. I got to be honest. The point thing is you, Cap. I'm feeling it when it's you.
That's the problem. You're right. It is him.
Right, but not everybody can get away with the pointing, and Cap can do it. So keep pointing.
I'm going to do it. Thank you, George. All right, Jorge Sedano is here. George, so we were talking about this earlier, just in terms of NFL yesterday, what people were watching, NBA last night. I know you were zoned in and focused in on the Lakers. Mm-hmm. Give me some first impressions of the Lakers winning this championship and, just where your head's at today.
It really is a testament to LeBron James in a lot of ways, Scott, because it's not just what he's still able to accomplish on the floor, but I think it's just finding a way to really make himself someone that can be not only one of the top 5, 10 players or whatever for the next several years, but finding a teammate in Anthony Davis and identifying a teammate in Anthony Davis that can help prolong his longevity, perhaps even beyond that, if he chooses to, right? Because if you look at Anthony Davis, he's basically got everything that all the great LeBron teammates have had just rolled into one. Now, that's not to say that there aren't aspects of his game mentally that still can't grow, because I think that, does he have the smarts of a Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh? Probably not. He may never, to be honest with you. But he's certainly got a hell of a combination of those two guys as far as, peak Dwayne Wade. People forget in 2011 in that Dallas series, Dwayne was going to be the finals MVP that series. He was the best player on the floor had Miami been able to win that. He was the best player on the floor even if you take the fact that they lost that series. He outperformed Dirk. Dirk just won. But, so I think it's just all of these things. I think it's just LeBron continually showing us what he can do, even at this stage. And I don't see a real end in sight. I think that he's going to have a gradual decline. But I think that the way he treats his body, the way he treats the game, and the way he's been so smart in surrounding himself with the right people and trusting and empowering the right people, I think he's put himself in the pole position for the next several years.
All right, Jorge Sedano from ESPN Los Angeles with us here this afternoon talking about the Lakers championship last night. Take me right to the end. I want to get your opinion on this. When LeBron makes his comment after the game, Rob Pelinka wants his respect and Frank Vogel wants his respect and everybody wants their respect and I want my damn respect too. I was sitting there watching that going, what respect? What's the issue here? Where does LeBron feel disrespected? And I cynically think that everything he says is very pre-thought out. So I don't feel like it's just off the top of his head that he wants his damn respect too. Maybe you feel different. But what is he talking about?
So to your point, of all the guys I've covered, and again, I'm not acting like I'm friends with LeBron James. I'm not friends with him at all. I mean, I'm cordial with him from a business relationship because we have to deal with each other. But he reminds me a lot of Shaq, to your point, Scott. He does, I think things through. And I think that when he's saying that, at least the way I interpret it is, he's the athlete that has really grown up as a professional athlete in the social media 24-hour news cycle age, right? He's our first NBA superstar that had to deal with that. And, Jordan didn't have to deal with that. Jordan was going around gambling in between the Eastern Conference Finals and the Knicks series, and it didn't get reported until the next day. And when that happened, he did a sit down with his buddy Ahmad Rashad. You know what I'm saying? And it just felt like it was more the environment in the media was more controlled. Whereas LeBron can literally turn on any television show, radio show on a given day, and they treat him like he's just some dude. You know what I mean? And he's not. Like, he's on the Mount Rushmore, whether you like it or not. And from a skill set perspective, he may be the most talented we've ever had. But I just think that it's that, right? I just think that he doesn't get the reverence in real time that maybe we showed Michael or some of these other guys, just because the world wasn't as connected. And I think that that's part of the downfall of the world being so connected, is that you're getting random people's opinions in real time.
Yeah, this is where this goes sideways. So go ahead, Browner.
I disagree from this standpoint. At the time Michael Jordan was playing, there was a ton of people who wrote bad things about Michael Jordan. At the time, writing a book was Twitter. So you had guys who were published people writing negative books about Michael Jordan. People didn't like Kobe Bryant at the time. Kobe Bryant became revered once he retired. LeBron James has an army of people who work either for him or make money off of talking about him. And then to me, that's the greatest respect that you could show someone. People have careers made off of LeBron James's career that may have never even met him. Skip Bayless being one. Who's this other guy on Fox? Anyway,
Nick
you know what I'm
Wright?
talking about. Yes, guys whose careers have been made talking about LeBron James. So when he says he wants his respect, he's he's so respected. People dislike him because so many people love him.
Well, here's where I would push back on that. Yes, you're right that he is his own economy. There's no question about it. But
He
what
is
I
the
would
state of
say
California.
is, to your point earlier, yes, did people write negative things about Michael? They did, but it was also few and far between in regards to the amount of stuff that's out there and the consistency, right? And I think that, look, man, we're going to look back in 20 years. And we're starting to do it now. If you've seen that, what's that movie on Netflix, the Social Experiment or whatever?
Social Dilemma?
Social Dilemma, right.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to look back at this time and be like, yo, there was a lot of people with all sorts of mental health issues because of social media. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're dealing, and I'm not saying that's LeBron. I'm just saying that in general, the effects of that land differently. If Michael Jordan would have gone to Atlantic City in 2015 or 2020, it would have landed differently than it did back in the 90s. There's no way you can you can even compare the two, to be honest with you.
Here's the way I look at it. LeBron is so good that the debate in the NBA always goes to who's better, MJ or LeBron. And that has created such hate towards LeBron because people will not let go of that particular debate.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything that LeBron can do to shut people up like Browner, or to not necessarily
Whitlock.
shut them up? Not to shut them up, but to kind of appreciate the fact that he is really damn good, regardless if he's better than Jordan or not. Like, who cares?
Here's what I would say. I think there are always going to be people who are in the camp of never, right? Never. Like that is the reality of life. Could there be people that could be swayed? Maybe. I don't know, man. We live in such a polarized world, regardless of what the hell the subject matter is, that I don't know if we can get unentrenched in our positions at times. Hopefully that is the case with more information. We actually just did, I'll give you a little sneak peek behind the curtain. We just did a thing for ESPN.com where we had to vote. I don't have the questions in front of me. I think I already deleted the email, but basically it was like a computerized vote on like 5 to 10 questions about Jordan versus LeBron, right? And it was things like, who do you think had the tougher path? You know, what would it take for LeBron to overcome Jordan, to ask your questions, right? Is it never? Is it, 6 titles? Is it 7 titles? I would say that there is a never camp. I would say that there's probably a camp that if he gets 7, even 6, you'd have to start saying to yourself, okay, well, how do we then compare the years Jordan didn't make the finals, right? Because we're talking about LeBron's losses in the finals. But if he has the same amount of wins or more wins at the end of the day, how do we equate those things, right? So, I just think we're so far away from that really being a real reality. ESPN commissioned during the Last Dance. Now, granted, there's some recency bias there, right? A survey of, I think it was like 9,000 or 10,000 people, right? And it was the LeBron Jordan thing. And it was still overwhelmingly on Jordan's side. And it didn't matter the age group. I mean, it was a little closer with the younger audience than certainly the older audience. But I just think it's going to take a lot more winning to get rid of the mythology, because, again, it's just easier in today's day and age to poke holes in anything as opposed to what it was back in the 90s when we were waiting the next day to have the newspaper thrown on our lawn potentially, or walking to a newsstand to read yesterday's news.
I mean, even Kobe Bryant was – imagine Kobe going through the trial now. Like,
oh my God,
dude. Yeah. But I guess my question really wasn't like, can he be better than Jordan? Because I don't care. Like, I just want –
I don't either, to be honest.
I just wonder, like –
I do.
Because no matter what, here's my thing. Because no matter what, JB, like LeBron can do whatever, and it's always gonna be like, but yeah, he's not as good as Jordan. So I'm always like, I don't care if he's as good as Jordan. I just wonder if there's anything LeBron can do to like not have the but.
I think, though, George, those questions that you just said to us that ESPN asked a bunch of the NBA reporter community, I would love to know what all 5 of those questions were, because who had the tougher path, Jordan or LeBron? I would argue LeBron. The second question, what would it take for LeBron to overtake Michael Jordan? I would love to have some choices, like win 7 titles or whatever those choices would be. I'd love to know what it would take to sway the vote from somebody who thinks that Jordan is so much greater. Those questions are awesome. I'd like to get a copy of those.
Well, it'll probably be on ESPN.com in the next couple of days. So, because it was anonymous. You log in, and they're just going to tabulate all the votes of the 60 or 70 or so people that cover the NBA for us.
Yeah, I mean, who had the tougher path? I would think all the stuff we're talking about here. You have LeBron James, who starts in his hometown as a teenager, moves to Miami where he's essentially a hired gun, but achieves and wins, goes home and delivers what he set out to at the beginning, and then gets to move his entire organization like he's a character in Laverne and Shirley from the God, I sound old, but George.
Well, he went from Milwaukee to California, yeah.
Right, yeah. You see, I mean, he's some people would call it jumping the shark by going from Cleveland out to LA, but he's won now in LA. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about the media coverage, the way life is for him, versus the way things were a lot easier, simpler, I should say, back in the Jordan era, particularly dealing with media, not the media. I would think LeBron's had the tougher path than Jordan.
Well, I know Browner's already been out of shape about this. I would also I think that's even such a nuanced question, right? Like, the Eastern Conference back then was really tough for Michael Jordan, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was more physical. The game was clearly more physical, right? But I think that, to your point, Scott, a lot of the outside stuff that Jordan didn't have to deal with, that players today have to deal with, is just, it's a weight. I don't care what anybody says. And it's hard to quantify. So I think that becomes a bigger challenge. But I would say this, for as great as the teams were that Michael faced, none were ever as good as any of those Warrior teams that LeBron faced. So, it really just kind of depends on the way you look at it. And honestly, you could make the case that the San Antonio team that he beat is better than any of the teams that Michael faced in the finals. I don't think it's an easy answer to any of those questions. I got that email last night, and I sat there for whatever it was, 5 questions, 8 questions, whatever it was. It took me 20 minutes to decide, because I really was doing like the tale of the tape in my head, trying to answer to the best of my abilities. And not all those questions are easy. And by the way, not all those questions are easily answered in a multiple choice format too.
All right, so Jorge Sedano is here from ESPN Los Angeles and a longtime NBA reporter for ESPN. Let me ask you, just organizationally, I saw Browner posted a question on Sided today. Are the Lakers the best organization in American pro sports? Are they the best?
Historically, it's neither them or the Yankees, right? Like, it's pretty hard to argue, I think. The Celtics, I know the Celtics have the same amount of championships, but so many of their championships were so long ago that you can't argue that the Lakers have had more sustained success, that the Yankees have had more sustained success, right? The Lakers went 10 years between championships. The Yankees' longest drought was 15, right? And I think that, when you think about sustained success, it has to be one of those two organizations.
If you factor in more than just the success, the salary cap era, free agents, there's a lot of moving parts when you start talking about organization, and then the difference in sports and how the money works in certain sports. I think it's the Lakers, because if you look at after the ABA NBA merger, they've been the most successul brand in any sport, period. They've had their players have been more marketable. They've won more. The name rings more across the country, globally. Actually, when we're talking about the Lakers, Magic Johnson has helped perpetuate that, because he's one of the more famous people after basketball, just simply because of what he's been able to do and his continued tie to the Lakers.
Shaq is another perfect example of that too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, and Jeannie Buss being the first female owner to win an NBA title, that's going to take that and just simply skyrocket it from a brand perspective. So I think I wrote that question. I already knew the answer to it, but I wrote it to just kind of see what other people were feeling, because a lot of people want to say the Patriots, but that's recent. That's not from the 70s, 80s. That's not over generation after generation. So that's why I think it's the Lakers.
Yeah, it's the Lakers or Yankees. And to your point, I think that it's beyond just what happens between the 4 lines. You know what I mean? I think that beyond that, there is – look, Derek Jeter is always going to be Derek Jeter, right? And I think that there are some guys that transcend being Yankees, but I just think it is a little different with that particular brand. And by the way, if you just look at if you want to use social media as a metric, right? There's not an American professional sports team with a bigger following on social media on any platform than the Lakers.
Hey, Jorge Sedano. Sorry, Scott.
Let's finish up,
because I'm curious about what you think, because I don't think AD is going anywhere. But this roster is kind of old. And,
terrible.
Rondo's not getting any younger.
Terrible. They just won the championship.
Do you think they can continue to be good next year if AD comes back? And
yeah, look, the core is there. You have those two guys as your centerpiece. You can fill the spots around them. They have a mid-level exemption, right, that they can work with. They have the biannual exemption. And you're always going to get veteran guys that want to latch on for a championship. There's always a David West out there, like with the Golden State Warriors, right? Where that guy was making $10, $11 million a year and said, to hell with it. I'm going to take the minimum for the last 2 years of my career and win championships, right? So there's always going to be those guys. There's numerous examples of it. They're always going to have the buyout market, right? I don't believe they have a ton of trade assets. I think that is kind of the one place where the war chest is a little bare. But yeah, I think that you can find guys to pit around those two guys. I think going forward, I think the Lakers are going to be fine because of what's happening with Corona. Everybody's cap's going to come down. And guys are going to look around and go, listen.
It's not coming down as much as you think. It's going to be around 115 million, I think.
But what a lot of guys had projected for what they thought they were going to make, being a one-year guy trying to chase a championship, they're not going to get that. So they would just rather win and take whatever they can get and have a trophy at the end of the year. So y'all better get the Melo jerseys ready because that's who's coming. If they can rehabilitate Dwight, y'all better make room for Melo. Y'all made Dwight a championship. Be ready to make Melo one.
I actually think that Melo, not to go too far off on a tangent here, but I was unbelievably impressed that Melo did what he did. Like it was clearly very hard for him to turn himself into a role player. It took years of him and him being out of the game, really, to kind of make him understand that. But he was excellent, I thought, for them as a role player. And if he can latch on to a Lakers team or any team that can win a championship, I think people would be really happy for him.
When you get older in this game, any game, you want to win when you haven't. That's why Dwight Howard did what he did, became who he became. And I think Melo too. Hey, George, before you go, here it is, man. Look
there
at this right here.
Scott Kaplan, but we need the pointing. We need the pointing.
I know.
Right there. Give it to me. Give me the point. Give me the point to the screen. There it is.
The two finger.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
I forgot you always do the two finger.
Mm-hmm.
It should just be the shirt's name and then just the fingers pointing underneath the name.
That could be
a silhouette.
That could be your logo. Your logo.
It should be a silhouette. Hey, George, I hope to be speaking to you with some crosstalk here back on the radio up in LA. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
You got it, brother. Anytime. Good to talk to you guys.